Hello, I'm Rob Heagney, a member of the Board of Directors of the Simsbury Land Trust. We're here today at the George Hall Farm on Old Farms Road in West Simsbury, Connecticut. And with me today is Darren Hall. And Darren, you've been here on the farm working with your Uncle George for many years. Tell us about your role here on the farm.
Currently, I think I'm the general manager. That's how I like to refer to myself as. I'm kind of in charge of making sure the production's going in the right direction and making sure that the fields are prepared when we get ready to go, planting and things of that nature. That's what I do.
And the farm is actually in two parcels. There's the 12 acres here on Old Farms Road, and then there's the 40 acres that are often known to many in Simsbury as Pharaoh's Farm.
Correct.
And that's a parcel that you and George have been farming for about 25 years now?
It's even longer than that. I think it's closer to 35 years.
35 years, and that has been through a lease with the town, but you're now in the process of purchasing that from the town.
That's correct.
Okay. And, you know, the Simsbury Land Trust is working as partners with you and George to try to preserve all this as farmland and entering into a development rights purchase agreement to preserve all this land as agricultural land here in Simsbury. And we're here today to talk about why that's important, why this is a hidden treasure here in Simsbury, and why that's going to benefit all of us in the long run as we go forward. Darren, one of the key features of the farm here is that it operates as an organic farm. Tell us about that. When did that start, and what's involved in that?
There's a long line of cancer in our family. It's a long history of it. And what that did, George was watching a cabbage field being sprayed by another commercial grower at the time, and he was watching, I think it was DDT at the time, or some obnoxious chemical that's not being used anymore. But each time the cabbage head grows, it wraps its leaf around the leaves that were previously there. It kind of grows in a grasping way. So every time you sprayed powder onto this thing, it would wrap up and it would be stuck inside the head of cabbage. So he saw that, and that's when he decided he was going to go organic. And he started that back in 1976, I think. He was watching his father pass away, and it was 10 years of growing commercially before he realized that organic was a better way for him to grow.
Okay. So, and explain to people like me that aren't familiar with what, obviously, you're not using chemicals, but what are you doing to anyone that walks around the fields here sees beautiful, healthy crops? Tell us how you bring that about.
Well, what we do is we have a rotation of our crops. There's certain things you don't plant behind other things. Like you don't plant potatoes in the same place you had tomatoes the year before because they're in the same family. And if you do that, then you start getting too much pressure from pests. Like potato beetle is the number one thing. That's a big one for us.
Okay.
And that's above ground. Below ground, you have nematodes and things like that can start building up in the soil if you keep raising the same crops over and over and over again on the same piece of ground.
So the key piece is crop rotation.
Crop rotations are main.
And understanding the different values that each crop is going to bring back to the soil over time.
Yes.
Okay. And how does that? This is not a huge farm. A total of about 52 acres. How does that? Is that easy to plan? Is that a difficult challenge?
It becomes difficult because during that process we also rest some land also. So we have about a third of the whole operation in fields that are resting on a regular basis, and that allows the soils to build up with some of the natural nutrients that are out there. And by doing that, we're able to keep rotating stuff through on a regular basis. And it does become a little bit challenging when you have a lot of brassicas going in, which are your collards and kale and cabbage, all that's all in the same family. Or you get your tomatoes and your potatoes and that family. So there's a bunch of different things that go into it, and ultimately what it boils down to is what Mother Nature lets you do. That's the ultimate what it boils down to. So, like right now, this particular year, we're faced with some tremendous amounts of rain. We have not seen this amount of rain in June in who knows how long. We were over in the field this morning, and one part of it's dry, so we're going to plant tomatoes in there today. The other part's underwater. So we're not going to go anywhere near that.
Have to wait on that.
At least not with the tractors. So.
And we're sitting in one of your greenhouses. I don't know, I think you have 5 or 6 I've seen on the property. And tray after tray of seedlings growing up. Thank you for your help. And obviously, this is something you start in the winter time or in the early spring, and you're growing all of your own seedlings.
Correct. The house we're sitting in right now is our production house. This is the house where we start all of our seedlings in that we raise here on the farm. We start this about March 15th is generally the kickoff date for this house. It's a low heat greenhouse. We rely on Mother Nature to keep the sun to keep it warm during the growing season. And in here we start in the spring with our early brassicas, which is the kale's college cabbage. And then as it warms up and the days and nights start getting warmer, then we go into our warm weather crops. Now what you see behind me right now is the third time we filled this greenhouse up this year.
Is that right? This is the third rotation.
Correct. And we've got one more rotation going through here for what we're planting this year. And then in August we actually start planting for our fall greenhouse production. We have 4 of the greenhouses out in the field that are called high tunnel greenhouses. And those houses don't have any heat at all in them, and they rely strictly on solar power to keep them warm during the winter growth season.
Okay. And what would you be growing in those?
In those particular houses, it'll be mostly kale. We'll have Swiss chard, and then we experiment with different things. Like this year, in March, we planted one greenhouse with red and yellow beets, and 3 types of onions, red, white, and yellow, and then also a row of leeks in there. And that came up really well. So we're going to expand that for next year so that we can increase our wintertime production, because our season runs about June 25th through Thanksgiving. That's our main selling season. Okay. With the high points being in September and October. That's when our fields are bountiful of everything that we grow. And as long as you don't have a rainy weekend, you usually have a pretty good season. One rainy weekend and we're shot. That's it. We've lost all that income for that weekend. So.
Well, let's talk about your market. You're part of the CSA program, and that's community supporting agriculture.
Correct.
And you're also going out to farmers markets and selling there, and you're selling direct to places like Whole Foods and
that's correct.
Certain entities. So. Tell us about how the CSA program works.
Okay. The CSA is community supported agriculture, and what that does is a partnership between me and my customers, and what they do is they pay up front for the produce that I think that I'm capable of raising. And what that does for me is it allows me to purchase seeds and not go into debt to a fertilizer company or to a seed company to have to have that heavy debt hanging over my shoulders. So that's all paid for up front. And then if we have crop failures and stuff like that, then that releases me of some of that burden of responsibility. I do the best we can not to have that, but it does happen. And then once a week you come to the farm here and you pick up your produce, and it's usually on a Tuesday from 2 to 6. And it's kind of a community thing where you meet in the barn with certain other members of the CSA, and you talk about what was in the baskets from last week and what's in the baskets for this week, and you share ideas on, 1, how to cook it, 2, what is it, because you see stuff in the CSAs you don't see at the grocery store because there's not enough demand for it for the grocery stores to carry it. We raise a bunch of heirloom stuff for our CSA, and then our main crop for CSA is the kale, and the kale is one of those superfoods. It's so high in nutrients and cancer-fighting properties that most people don't even know what the stuff is. And once you have cancer, once it becomes part of your life, then you start to understand what kale is all about, and you start to do something neat with that. And there's tons of recipes in your diet. Yeah. So that's what our CSA is about, and that runs from about the middle of June till Halloween. Then we also are involved with farmers markets, Connecticut grown farmers markets, and generally we only go to the farmers markets that are producer only, and there's 2 different types. Producer only means you need to produce the stuff you're selling. The other type is you can buy from a wholesaler and then take it to the market and sell it. And then finally we're involved with a little bit of wholesale. We've had a wholesale customer for 35 years. We've been dealing with them for 35 years of continuous service. And we've also picked up some other ones. There's Whole Foods is one of our customers, and then a couple of restaurants that also purchase our organic produce. Now, one of the other ones that's just come on board this year is a company called So Fresh, and what they are is they're a delivery service. They purchase stuff from us once a week, and they deliver it to homes around the state, and they have a little produce route that they go on. And I think that's going to become the future of what agriculture is here in Connecticut, where you have a producer making stuff or growing stuff, and then you have a delivery service that goes to certain areas and drops it off and gives home service. And what they do is they kind of make a collection. They're like the old-fashioned grocery store that used to deliver your goods to you.
Right.
They put it on a website, because web is the best way of handling stuff these days. You can order whatever you want. They come by, pick it up, and go. And they buy produce from us. They buy milk and stuff from another dairyman. And it's really kind of neat the way that whole thing is starting to come around.
And that's just new this year.
That's new to us this year and new to them. They just started off.
Do you know if they're active here in the community?
They're not in Simsbury per se. They have a route more towards the 95 corridor.
Okay.
Running up and down through that area. It's a higher population area down there.
But they're buying from you and
they're buying from us
and bringing it down there. Okay, great. Let's go back to the CSA, because tell me a little bit about the economics of that. How does that work?
Well, with farming is like gambling. Once you become addicted to this mess, it's a mess. So, I save up all my money from last year, and I start investing it in seed, and I start investing it in plastic for the greenhouses. So by the time this time of the year, about June 15th, June 20th, I'm flat broke. I have no money left. Now I got to figure out if I can get the stuff out of the field and to a market to sell. And luckily the markets today are a lot different than they were 20 years ago. You get a rainy day at a market 20 years ago, nobody would even show up.
Mm.
Today, people are very dedicated to buying local, so they do show up at the farmers market. So you always have a little bit of something going. But like I was just saying, in the fall, when we have our really big days where the trucks are full, if we have a rainy Saturday, we lose all that income from that Saturday. The CSA kind of levels that playing field out for me. It takes a up and down market and turns it into a nice level cash in. Every week I can figure out how much money is coming in from that CSA. Even though it's all paid for up front, it definitely helps with budgeting. Like I think we finance our whole operation here through George's pocket, and then we hopefully get it all back, so he's got a little something to start with for next year.
There you go. Okay. And obviously, you and George are in partnership with the Land Trust to try to preserve this as a farm. And tell us what that means to the farm itself and to you as a family.
Well, it's to us as a family. It's those of us that have grown up in it, we know nothing else. I mean, that's all we know is this farming nonsense. And I say nonsense in the lightest sense, because it really is. It's an addiction for me. I get into this farming stuff, and it just keeps rolling round and round for me. But for our family, there's so much pressure out there to turn this into a housing development. Put in 5 or 6 houses, sell it for the high dollar value, and then be done with it. Farming is a low income, high output operation. You get very little financial reward for what you do, but the rewards come more in the satisfaction of what you're doing, the love of the land, the love of the animals, the plants, all that stuff. Behind us we have 7,200 plants of, there's 72,000 yellow beets behind us.
Mm.
We just sprouted those 2 days ago. They're beautiful. They're starting to come up. It's new growth for us.
We're talking about why the Land Trust. We're going to go, why it's important to partner. And as you say, I mean, the alternative, and I mean, you've been in Simsbury long enough. In 1950, Simsbury had over 35 farms, active farms here in the town, and there's maybe 7 left. This is the last, I believe, unprotected farm of those 7. So that this is a key opportunity, and it's the only farm that's producing organically in town. And so it's a key opportunity for people who are interested in organic produce to have an opportunity to buy it from a local vendor. It's a way to preserve the farming heritage of the town, and obviously it's a way for us to also preserve sort of the landscape of the community as it has existed over time, despite the development that's taking place. And we're doing 2 things. Obviously, the 12 acres here on Old Farms Road, but you're also perpetually preserving, as an agricultural use, the Farrow Farm, 40 acres that you've been leasing over on the Terrace Plain Road. And so that's, I think it's a key. And it's one of the most unique things that the town, or that that has happened in town in terms of farm preservation. The other farms, while they were large and active, were not organic, and this is a unique opportunity for us to bring a rather unique property together. And obviously we've sort of been a catalyst to providing the opportunity for George to buy the Farrell's Farm property. Darren, I want to thank you for taking time with us, and for all of you viewers out there, we hope you'll support the Land Trust's effort and the Hall family's effort to preserve this land and to keep it as an agricultural land, and particularly an organic agricultural property in years to come. Your donations to the Simsbury Land Trust will go directly towards that effort. Thank you for those contributions. Hi, I'm Rob Heagney, and I'm a member of the Simsbury Land Trust Board of Trustees, and I'm here today at the George Hall Farm on Old Farms Road in West Simsbury, Connecticut, with George Hall, the owner and operator of the Hall Farm. And George, thank you for joining me. We're here to talk about your farm. Tell us a little bit about the history of this farm and how long it's been here.
This farm here used to be the Shaw farm. Guy Shaw owned it, and I went to school with his daughter, Sylvia. And I bought it in 1963.
Okay.
Prior to that, I lived on Terry's Plain Road. That was my grandfather's farm.
And it's been your full-time activity farming here ever since?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And tell us, you've been farming, I think, for most of that period of time as an organic farmer. Tell us about how that came about.
Well, most of my family died of cancer very young. And my father died very young. So I went into organic food in 1969, I think, but I got certified in 1978. And we used to ship to New York. We used to catch a crew from Vermont that was sending a load down, and I would have stuff that they didn't have up there. So I got pretty big into organic then, and I was able to sell the organic food. And they liked it, so. Plus, I felt as though it was important to have healthy food to prevent cancer.
Yep.
So,
And tell us, you have a little over 12 acres here in West Simsbury, and then you're also farming the Farrell's Farm property for
yeah.
Over there on the eastern side of town, eastern side of the river. Tell us about that land.
That land used to belong to the Patterson estate, and it had Guernsey cattle, and it grew tobacco, and it was good growing land. I worked there as a kid. My brother and I used to cut asparagus in the spring for 35 cents an hour. Mm-hmm. And it was, that's what they paid then. And they grew a lot of strawberries because they had a store in the center of town that they sold retail. So they grew, different things. Good food too. And then once they got out of the cattle business, and I think a couple of people died, they leased it out, and I leased it. And I think the town bought it, and I leased it from the town. Been leasing it ever since.
So now you're in a position to purchase that land from the town, and together with the land trust, which will be buying the development rights of both parcels, will make it an affordable opportunity to not only keep that in, make it one whole farm of 52 acres, but also continue the organic growth there.
Oh yes, yes. We had a 100-acre farm right down the road, and this was my grandfather's. So once my father and mother died, there was 5 of us in the family, and not one of us could afford to buy the other ones out, so it had to be sold like families. They had to sell their land to divide the money up. So that's why this is going to be different. You know.
So in this case, this will provide the opportunity to continue the farm through the family, and it will be dedicated to agricultural purposes forever. And that's got to be a good legacy to you. You must feel good about particularly having lost the original farm.
Yeah, you know, but I think the kids, the families, like when we sold ours, we got a hell of a good price, but the money goes.
Yep.
And you have a family, and it's not hard to get rid of $500,000. Send your kids to college, buy them cameras and cars. A good car is $50,000 today, right?
That's for sure. Yeah. And you have your nephew Darren. We spoke to him, and he's an integral part of the farm.
Oh
here.
yeah. He used to be here when he was a kid. He and his brother had a building there. We call it the bunkhouse. He and 3 or 4 other kids, and they work all summer long. And they always liked farming. They're good, you know. And he's good today. He's very good. And he's good for the health of the people. He's a good farmer. He's great about organic. He thinks it's wonderful. And he likes animals. He's got the pigs and ox. And he sells cordwood. He's just what we need.
Great. And tell us about your market. You sell through the CSA program.
Yeah, we sell to local people. Join the CSA. It's a group, and they come all summer. And then I sell to Whole Foods. I sell to, well, Fitzy's get some now and then. I sell to wholesale down at the market to M&M, Lotto's Company. I sell to restaurants, several restaurants. You know, it's a lot of deliveries and putting stuff up, but it's good. And there's a couple restaurants in Farmington I sell to, high-end restaurants that really appreciate it.
And they're really looking for the organic.
Oh yeah,
That's the key for them. And you're one of the few markets in the valley here, isn't it?
That, you know, that guarantees it's organic, guarantees it's certified organic, isn't it?
Tell us about that process. How do you get to be a certified organic farm?
Well, now the government has an outfit in Massachusetts that sort of comes down to Connecticut, and they inspect your farm, where you order your seeds and your land and what you put on for fertilizer and stuff. Everything has got to be documented. And then they certify it. And then, like, they can come here today and check my stand at the road and take something with them to run it.
Run a test on it.
Oh, yeah. Quite often they come down and, you know, they're friendly about it, but they're doing their job, which is good.
So when people are getting organic, they can be assured that's what it is.
It's guaranteed.
Certainly when it's coming from a certified farm such as this.
Yeah. Yes.
So your goal in acquiring the Farrow's farm property, bringing those two together as a unified farm, and then selling the development rights to the Simsbury Land Trust is to create that preservation and continue the organic farming for long beyond both our years.
Oh yeah. You know, these members in my family, Darren, they're all going to be involved in it. And, you know, they're proud of it. They're proud of it. When I leased that land back in the early 70s, an outfit had grown cucumbers, 2 crops a year. And they did it for 2 years. But there wasn't a ladybug or a worm on the property. just parallel.
They depleted everything.
Yeah, they poisoned it, so they only had cucumbers. No weeds, no bugs, right? Nothing nipped them into the cucumbers. So, you know,
Okay. So organic farming really is just returning you to your roots.
Right. Right.
In the pre-chemical age, if you will.
It was back in the, we used to hoe. Well, you were smarter about getting rid of weeds and all that. This is back in the 30s when all the high school, grammar school kids even looked at farms. You know, you just did it right, I guess. There was no chemicals, no poison. They did use fertilizer, but it cost money, so they used manure that was kept under shelter, so it wasn't depleted that much. And in those days, there wasn't any chemicals you gave your cows,
right,
or the horses.
So you're bringing that healthy food back with this farm, and I think that's one of the key things that we're trying to explain to people of why it's so important to preserve this Hall farm as an active organic farm. And so we turn to you and we say, help us, help the Simsbury Land Trust preserve this land. Your small donation can make this land remain as an organic farm for all of our lives and our children's lives. And we thank you, George, for visiting with us today and for partnering with the Land Trust to preserve this land. Thank you.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.